Tom, 14 years coaching college hockey, university hockey.
Actually, it was 15. It was 14 and 1, and then I went back 1 year.
You went back once. So that 9 years in the NHL.
He didn't have a system.
What's the major difference?
I think the major difference, if I can talk about pro hockey now, in professional hockey in the National League, you play 80 games in 27 weeks. So at best, the ratio of practice to game is 1 to 1. I mean, when I went to school, 27 and 80 is roughly 3. Whereas in college, maybe you have all week to play maybe 2 games in the weekend. Now, at a place like the University of Toronto, there'd be the odd midweek game. So you're going to Guelph or your alma mater at McMaster or something like that.
Which always beat U of T, I might add, too.
Well, I can only remember once. No, I can remember twice. I can remember twice. And Bill Mahoney, by the way, did a great job coaching at McMaster for quite a few years, let me tell you.
Well done, Bill.
Excellent. And in the college, you have more time to train. And more preparation for the game. In the National Hockey League, you don't have the same preparation time, and so your role becomes a little different. I believe the most important thing to coach in the National Hockey League is how you handle the bench the day of the game. You have to know what you've got on your bench. You have to know the league and know your opponents. The most important thing is to get the right players out at the right time against the opposing players.
Sound philosophy, I think.
And that is not necessarily true in college. You know, you don't have the tapes, scouting reports. You prepare your own team. And so I would say 2/3 of your job is preparation for the game, and maybe 1/3 how you handle the team the night of the game, whereas that might be reversed in pro. It's very important how you handle the team the day of the game, and because you don't have the same lead-up time and preparation time, then that doesn't become quite as important.
Well, let's go back to the '59 Blues. You're a big burly player there. Who was your toughest opponent in those days?
Oh my God, I guess Laval, Université Laval. Now I get really upset, and even in my early coaching years, 2 of the largest universities in Canada no longer, and they're in French Canada, no longer have intercollegiate hockey teams. I'm talking about Université de Montréal, and I'm talking about Université de Laval, who have great rinks and had terrific college hockey teams. I remember there was a player at Laval by the name of Michel Lagacé, who is now a special assistant to our Prime Minister, who was also a Laval graduate of their law school.
Good with the elbows, actually.
But Michel Lagacé was a top intercollegiate player in those days, and Laval. But the schedule was much shorter then. You didn't play as many games, and you played a lot more tournaments, and there was no such thing as a national college championship in those days. And college hockey, certainly in Canada, we're now playing more games, and I think it's probably a very much overlooked part of our Canadian hockey background. For example, one thing that really bothers me, a coaching cohort of mine, and sometimes opponent Claire Drake, who's now an assistant, who's retired, by the way. He retired as the coach at the University of Alberta, is in Canada's Sports Hall of Fame as a builder. Claire is the winningest college hockey coach in North America. And previous to him having that honor, there was a fellow by the name of John McGuinness, who has since passed away and was the coach at Michigan Tech. And I remember when Bear Bryant became the winningest coach in college football in the United States, his picture was on the cover of Time magazine. And when Claire Drake became the winningest college hockey coach in North America, there was a little squib of about 3 lines that was a Canadian press release that I read in the Globe and Mail.
That was it, eh?
That was it. And we don't know what kind of a gem we had there.
If only we'd had a Sportsden then, Marty. We could have, well, no sense crying over spilled milk.
Let's go back to the NHL a little bit. Leafs are struggling. They have been struggling. It's going to turn around sooner or later. What do you think is going to turn it around? Is it a point where the players have the mental attitude is dropping?
Well, right now our confidence is very low, and that comes with poor performance. And there's nothing in this business like a few wins to get your confidence back. There are peaks and valleys in confidence, and it can change very quickly. And I think, you know, you have to experience success to continue to get success. And if you keep experiencing failure and so on, but sometime, as you say, it's got to turn around. When we get some measure of success, then I think we can slowly turn it around. And it's hard, you know, when you're down in the bottom of that well to try to get your nose up over the top and look. It seems like it's 8 feet high right now. But I've been involved in sport a long time, and things change. And I'm just hoping for our sake and for our fans' sake that it changes quickly rather than slowly.
What's the attitude of the players like right now?
Well, it's tentative. I think our performance has not been very good. I think there's been a lot of talk about changes of personnel, certainly a lot of media attention, a lot of fan attention drawn to them and so on. I think that we're a pretty tentative group at the present time.
It's going to be a pretty tough city to be down into.
That's
because
right.
it's so much expected of you all the time.
Well, I don't believe, yeah, there is a lot expected, but it's the truth. Listen, I've coached, this is my 4th Canadian city, and hockey is a part of our Canadian culture and fabric, and I can tell you that it's the same in Winnipeg, and it's the same in Calgary, and it's the same in Vancouver. There's a lot of attention focused on the hockey team, and here, you know, there's maybe 3 newspapers instead of 2, or there's 10 radio stations instead of 7 or 8. There's a little bit more, certainly, but if people think that there isn't a lot of attention drawn to the Winnipeg Jets or the Calgary Flames or the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, I lived in Edmonton for 7 years, and I know that the situation they're in right now, they're not doing much better than the Leafs are, and I'm sure they're under the gun out there too.
Yeah.
Stanley Cup champions, you know, it happens. That's sport. That's why people go to horse race every day. You know, not always the expected, you know, comes about. Sometimes there are changes.
Well, on that note, we should remind people watching that you're watching on Gravenhurst Cable 10. And if you're listening, of course, you're listening on FM 101. We're speaking with Tom Watt, head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Tom Watt actually has a Muskoka connection here.
Oh, well, I've spent some time in Muskoka, Jim and Bonnie Parkhill. Actually, I taught school with Bonnie Bailey, her unmarried
As she was
name,
then.
and Heather Beers and Bob Galdi were other people that I taught with. And I've gone back, this is now quite a while ago, but I can remember for speaking for Bucka McDonald at a minor hockey banquet in the arena in Gravenhurst, and I can also remember going and giving a little clinic for minor hockey coaches there. Again, that was in the 70s, and
A lot of coffee drinking that night.
oh, well, you want the truth. The coffee was not coffee, but it was liberally, the coffee cup was filled with something other than coffee.
Something other than coffee.
It's a
The
Muskoka.
coach became too verbose after partaking of it. Anyway,
It's a Muskoka tradition.
That's true. And all minor hockey banquets start out with that magic coffee that they pour.